Defiance is one of those words that comes up a lot in this book, and I don't think that's an accident. I think anyone who's familiar with your art in any medium is going to be looking for that or expecting it. There's this quote I love so much in the book where you say, "I see music as an act of defiance as much as it is an act of celebration. I still don't understand how you can play a show or create any kind of work or performance without raising the stakes relatively high or with no stakes at all. If you're feeling too comfortable in your life, you have to find a way of challenging yourself in the creative process. You can't write from a place of entitlement." So I'm interested to know, how do you, as someone who is clearly very successful in what you've undertaken to do, how do you keep making art not from a place of entitlement?
I think being porous and open, I feel like it's hard to look out into the world. I guess my answer is twofold. One is this vulnerability that I aim for, and I think it's hard to look out into the world and not feel a sense of empathy towards all that is unjust or all that's in turmoil, and so I think to have a relationship with that's outside of you, it leaves you sort of open to instability, because we don't exist in a very stable environment. No matter, if you are sort of in a vacuum, then you can sense stability. I think, a lot of people can feel content in a certain way, but I think to engage in the world at all, to be to be sentient, is to feel a constant state of flux with oneself and also just with the environment. And so I think that engagement keeps me seeking, and I feel like seeking keeps me off balance, because there's always something to know and always something to possess that I don't have, or something to feel compassion towards. And I think there's just something about that that's slightly forward moving for me, and that sets me a little bit, that's unsettling, I think, to kind of be open. And I guess the other thing is, I do take on new projects. I think that's very destabilizing. This book, I certainly didn't assume that because of Slater-Kinney or Portlandia or anything that I do, that this book would be successful, that I would be able to read it without feeling total shame, or that I would decide, please don't publish it, let's just delete the file. So yeah, I feel like I tend to try new endeavors, and I think you kind of do have to, you have to pull the rug out from underneath yourself. But I think openness, honestly, it keeps things very fraught. The minute you close off and ossify, then I think you can kind of sort of encase yourself in a world of avoidance and certainty. But to be open is to be in a constant state of painful vulnerability, and then you're always off kilter.
There are so many moments of painful vulnerability in this book, and I think but in a great way. I feel like that helps us kind of connect with you as a person, not just as a musician or as an artist, but as a human being. I was wondering if maybe you could read a little bit now. I'm thinking particularly of one of these moments of vulnerability in Paris that you had on tour, which I think is incredibly illustrative of the reality of
my coolness, how cool I was? Okay. When was this? Probably 2000. Okay. We arrived in Paris to play 2 shows opening for Sonic Youth. A bit timid after the humiliation of the previous day, we started our set the first night feeling beat down, like we had to fight our way back. It took about half the set for my confidence to return, for the music to move through me without getting tripped up on the interlopers of doubt and nerves, to know the sound belonged within me. My friends James and Ian from the Washington, D.C. band Makeup showed up with a small entourage of Parisians. They invited us to a party. I tried to convince Corn and Janet to join, but they weren't up for a late night. In the end, it was only our sound guy Juan and I who ventured out. We arrived at a high-ceilinged apartment, sparsely decorated save for 2 large wall mirrors and neon artwork atop the mantel. There were a handful of men milling around, drinking wine and smoking. There were only 2 other women present, who I assumed to be friends of the host, but who I was told were actually call girls. As music played on the stereo speakers and dancing ensued, the atmosphere turned Dionysian. I sat on a sofa watching bodies become more entangled, turning from angles and lines to squiggles and waves. I mentally rifled through the files of my Olympia experiences to find the right protocol for this situation, a futile exercise. Then I thought of the left bank in the early 1900s, about expats, Gertrude Stein, Pablo Picasso, Juna Barnes, Colette. But this was a situation where knowledge was no match for experience. I wanted to come across as insouciant. I was in a rock band, I was on tour, I was at a sexy soiree in Paris, but I couldn't even figure out what to do with my face. I held my expression perfectly still, trying to appear neither overly curious nor mildly shocked. I soon realized the tension in my jaw was forming a grimace. In the end, all I could manage was the kind of shoulder dance moms do when they make shrimp scampi in the kitchen while drinking white wine and listening to Bruce Hornsby. I shimmied right out of the room, exited the apartment, and took a taxi back to the hotel.
Wow.
You guys know who Bruce Hornsby is? Was he big over here? Nope. Okay.
Well, no, I thought that was freaking hilarious.
Well,
I know who Bruce Hornsby on the Range are, and like that was for me the icing on the cake. Like it built up to that moment, and it was just.
That was easily my mom's favorite record for like 15 years.
Wow. Yeah, I don't even know how to describe.
With like Joan Osborne, Enya. Okay, Enya. Yeah, I guess Enya was big here.
You guys get the picture.
Yeah, I feel like there's like a translation. Like, who is this person here? Steve Winwood?
Not even.
Nope.
Like
wow. Jesus. Okay.
I don't think they do that over here like in the same way. I
Yeah.
don't know. But yeah, the little shoulder dance. I mean, it's, this is so different from what people imagine